Hello everyone, this is Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So guys, I found one of my subscribers gave me a heads up to an interview. It was funny, I was laughing at his comment. He said something like, he says, you should see the shit that's on the show tonight. So of course, I have to look it up. The emphasis that he put on it required it. I did watch the first one. There's two parts to this. I didn't watch the second one yet. I'm going to watch that with everyone else, but this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. They've gone full tilt, even though the other Democrats, I just did a story the other day from The Intercept, we're backing away from the Russia thing. Rachel Maddow, she has her shovel, and she's continued to dig. So, let's see where it goes.
June 1st, as part of staffing up for the California primary, the Clinton campaign added somebody new to their communications team. Normal hire, normal expectations. But then a couple weeks after that new staffer got there, his job got very suddenly very weird because something weird started happening in the campaign. And it became his beat, his unexpected responsibility to try to make sense of it, to try to explain it, this thing that nobody had planned for, which is that Russian government hackers had broken into the Democratic Party's computer servers, helped themselves to anything they wanted. Those lifted documents and emails stolen from the Democratic Party and ultimately from the chairman of the Clinton campaign, they ended up becoming ammunition in an attack, a foreign attack on the U.S. election, an attack designed to weaken the Democratic candidate, weaken the Democratic Party, disrupt their strategy, disrupt their communications, and ultimately help the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, win the election. And it's easy enough to say that now, but in the moment, in the chaos of the campaign, it was hard to persuade the public to pay attention to that bigger picture, right? That the election was...
I'm not going to get angry. I'm going to keep my shit together. I'm totally going to keep my shit together. When I'm looking at this, I'm not going to get angry. Alright, so the first point. She's hitting the Russia thing pretty hard, right off the bat. There's no evidence. I'm sorry, there's not. In fact, I looked this up because I remember seeing this somewhere. So USA Today makes this point. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange continues to deny that Russian government was the source of the hacked emails from the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, John Podesta. In an interview airing Tuesday at 10 p.m. on the Sean Hannity show, Assange reiterated that the source of the leaked emails is not the Russian government. We have said repeatedly that over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party, Assange told Sean Hannity. Now, another one came out, someone saying that it was a British intelligence agent who got the information from a disgruntled operative. Now look, whether they got it from a disgruntled operative or not, who knows? I lend more credibility to Assange on this. And it's not because... Look, WikiLeaks for the most part is a news organization. The information they put out is essentially investigative journalism. It depends on how you want to look at it, but it is ultimately investigative journalism based upon information that people are trying to hide. If he gets caught in a lie, his credibility is shot. The information that WikiLeaks has released over the years has never been shown to be false. It's all been true. I just don't understand what he would get out of lying about it. If it was the Russian government, who cares? For the most part, it was the information itself that had the gravity associated with it. I just don't think he's lying about it. Is it possible that he's lying? Yes, it's possible. Do I think so? No. My point is, Rachel Maddow doesn't know either. Like, understand what I'm saying? Rachel Maddow doesn't know. There are 3 stories out here in regards to where this information could have potentially come. Now, the CIA and the NSA has come out and said, oh, it's the Russian government. Alright? Where's your evidence for it being the Russian government? Trust us. We're the NSA and we're the CIA. We're looking at everything in general. The problem with that is the CIA lost their hacking tools. Now, I'm not saying that the hacking tools were used to do this data breach. I'm making the point that in the reveal that they lost their hacking tools, state agencies, rogue actors, can replicate techniques. Like, it's not a situation where any technique that a particular state agency does or a state does, it's absolutely, unequivocally coming from that particular state. There's no way to know. The way they do hacking, the way they raid these systems or whatever, can mimic other agencies, or can mimic the way other agencies may raid a particular thing. Meaning, whatever they're using as a signature to say that's Russia, there's no way for them to nail down and prove definitively that it's Russia. And we have competing stories saying it wasn't Russia. My point is, Rachel Maddow is lying here. At the very least, instead of her saying, we believe it's Russia, she's not even going there. She's going whole hog. Russia did this. Russia hacked this. Russia attacked them. Russia attacked the country. All this heavy, heavy stuff that she has nothing to back up. She has nothing to back up. So that's the first major point. It's just heavy-handed. I mean, it's red baiting. At no point did she mention what the information was. At no point. So let's see if she says. I'm willing to bet you any amount of money that what was in those emails don't come up.
It was being disrupted. It was being tilted. It was being externally operated on by a foreign government in favor of the candidate that that foreign government preferred. But for that new Clinton staffer, whose job it was to deal with this was his life. He was living this every day. As that campaign nightmare was playing out, it became this new staffer's job to learn everything there was to know about this hacking so he could explain it to the world and answer everybody's questions about it. He watched this hijacking of our election, this attack on our election in real time. He saw clues about what was happening early on. He had to figure it out fast, firsthand, live. And now, as the country is woken up to the magnitude of what happened to us last year, that staffer is ready to talk about it. And I think his perspective on what happened is really valuable in terms of us really understanding what happened and starting to unravel it. Joining us now for this special report is Glen Kaplan, former senior national spokesperson for the Clinton campaign. His responsibility included handling questions about WikiLeaks and hacking in Russia. Glen Kaplan, thank you for getting a babysitter and coming back.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, I want to get this right. I really want to hear this, and so I'm glad you're able to come back.
I know you want to hear it.
So you started to tell us this story last night. I want to basically back up and start again at the beginning. From your perspective, what happened first? What was the first thing that got weird?
Well, the first thing that got weird was the Washington Post broke the story in mid-June. DNC had been hacked. And that was the first that it started to get weird. That
you didn't have any indication before that report that had happened to the DNC?
No, we had indication once the report was happening. You know, they reached out to us for comment, and we were aware of the story a day or two before it broke. But that contact was the first we were aware of the DNC hack. That's the first time it got weird. Where it got disturbing was when a couple of days later, Guccifer 2, through DC Leaks, started dumping that information.
And Guccifer 2.0 is like a hacking nom de guerre, right? It's just it's a persona.
It's a persona that is believed to be the Russian intelligence by all the cyber experts.
Okay, and those the Guccifer 2 leaks ended up on DC Leaks website, which is something that didn't exist prior to the campaign. Nobody had ever heard of.
Correct. And that dump was a massive amount of data, of documents, that was not user-friendly and was very hard to get your arms around what was there. And therefore, it did not get an enormous amount of coverage and an enormous amount of attention.
What kind of documents was it? It was all stuff internal to the Democratic Party. Was this like the donor list?
It's like donor lists. It's, you know, research books, which is a compilation of clips of vulnerabilities of yourself and your opponents. I believe a Donald Trump research book.
It's a Democratic Oppo research on Donald Trump.
Right, but remember at that time Donald Trump famously wasn't paying for self-research.
Right.
So the fact that that research book was in there was actually quite interesting to us. And we believed very, very, from the first dump, that this was intended to help Donald Trump and undermine Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. This wasn't about trying to hurt both sides. Or
wait a minute, that sounds self-serving a little bit, to be honest. I mean, understand what he's saying. He's making this point of, he says, well, they leaked opposition research on Donald Trump in addition to the information from the DNC. The DNC essentially had opposition research on Trump. They released that information. Now, he's trying to say, well, yeah, they released that information. It wasn't to be even on both sides. They released the information because they wanted Trump to see the information that was on Donald Trump. Maybe? I mean, I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, Donald Trump had opposition research on Hillary Clinton. And the oppositional research that he had on Hillary Clinton was essentially the stuff that was in those Podesta emails. Maybe the speeches. Let's say it was a paid speech. You dump that information out. If you dump that information out and you're dumping both sides, the people are going to go to those paid speeches. Those paid speeches are going to hurt. It doesn't matter if Hillary Clinton sees it and can make a response for it. Those speeches hurt. My point is, if the opposition research they had on Donald Trump was that damning, it would have hurt. It would have hurt. Also, to a second part of this is kind of ridiculous. Donald Trump came to the presidential, A, he was a reality show host. B, he was already orange. C, when he came into the contest, he came down riding on an escalator, saying that Mexicans were for the most part drug dealers and rapists, and that every so often there may be a good one, but for the most part, they're a problem. That was how he started his campaign. Understand, this is prior to him essentially harassing the previous president for a birth certificate. Following through the campaign trail, the grab him by the pussy video. That by itself was mind-blowing. I think they blew it out of proportion to some degree. But you have to admit, a candidate walking around with a clip where they're hearing him say he grabs women by the pussy is pretty intense. I mean, it's one thing after the other. My point is, Donald Trump has put out so much ridiculousness that whatever you guys had on him, he essentially gave you more. Like, it's not a situation that opposition research was going to be helpful. The stuff that he did just during the campaign trail was opposition research. You're acting like he's some kind of giant or Goliath that, you had to line up to take down. It wasn't that he was a giant or Goliath that he had to line up to take down. You guys were just bad in general. Like, Nancy Pelosi said Donald Trump was the gift that keeps on giving. Why do you think she said that? She said that because she's like, the guy is bumbling from beginning to end. From the time he started the campaign to now, he's been a bumbler. It was the most shabby campaign we've ever seen. And yet, that shabby campaign could beat their candidate. My point is, whatever opposition research they had on Donald Trump continued to give them additional stuff that they can use against him. They couldn't make the case. They couldn't make the case. It just sounds hollow. It just sounds kind of ridiculous.
Just undermine the election.
Well, certainly in the case, I remember reporting at the time that in the case of the Oppo sort of dossier, the Democrats' Oppo dossier on Donald Trump, there's, that being published in June meant that, any ammunition that the Democratic Party politically had against Trump was then spent, was then out there.
It felt like a gift to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That research book being out was not hurtful to Donald Trump. That was a gift to Donald Trump.
Okay. So
that was one of the tells that very early on this was about hurting us.
And that happened in,
That's mid-June.
That's a cognitive leap. I mean, it really is. He doesn't know what the intentions were of the people who put over that DNC thing up. It's possible that it was to hurt, the DNC. Maybe, maybe not. But they put out opposition research on Donald Trump. Okay. Are you telling me that you believe that the opposition research on Donald Trump is somehow helpful to Donald Trump just because you have a while to have to deal with it? Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. That sounds like a complete leap to me. It's our theory of the case is that these people did this in order to hurt Hillary Clinton. So, in order to fulfill that theory of the case, anything that hurts Donald Trump within this has to be part of the plan to hurt Hillary Clinton. This self-motivating logic. It's not...
Mid-June. Okay, then what happened next?
Well, what happened next was the WikiLeaks dump on the eve of a Democratic convention. So if you think about it, this is sort of three shifts. The first is a dump of information in the first place. The Russians have done espionage for decades. That's not new. Every campaign going back for years has probably been surveilled, and there's been espionage. It was the information actually being weaponized and put into the public arena was what was new.
What do you mean by that, weaponized?
Meaning actually put in the public arena as opposed to collecting information for a foreign government's information and knowing what campaigns are thinking and things like that, which is the normal...
Rather than them...
This is absurd. This is... Somebody told me the other day, they said, well, Rachel Maddow has like a PhD in political science or something. This is fucking absurd. So, look. He's using the term weaponize. Let's deal with our euphemisms. He's using the term weaponize. And look, I'd imagine if you're living a lie, if your campaign purely depends on some kind of fantasy, then yeah, the truth will hurt. I would imagine if the truth, from that relative perspective of just being corrupt and immoral, yeah, somebody coming out with truth and evidence hurts your candidate. I can imagine that person would consider that to be a weapon of sorts. But understand the euphemism. He's talking about just the virtue of them releasing information is making that information weaponized. It's like they put out information that was true. It was a weapon. It was a weapon. The truth really hurt our particular person. This is crazy. I mean, look, there are two main points on this. If Rachel Maddow is right, if this case that she's been making for God knows how many months, if she's right, that the information that was released through WikiLeaks, let's say, I'm not even going to say let's say Russia did it, because she doesn't know, and I'm kind of sick of hearing this thing. The other Democrats are backing off of this point, but Rachel Maddow is still plowing ahead, absolutely oblivious. Or better yet, it's not even being oblivious, it's just lack of integrity, if we're keeping shit real. If she's right, that when WikiLeaks released that information, the public took a look at the information and said, holy shit, is this what they've been doing? So it's like, wait a minute, she knew that Saudi Arabia had something to do with terrorism. I mean, she says it in the email. And yet she was still taking money from that organization, from that country, and giving them weapons at the same token. Somebody else is looking at it and saying, holy hell, she took $12 million from Morocco in order to have a meeting with them. Meaning, if you have 7 digits, it's understood that you can meet Hillary Clinton. You have to pay that money to the Clinton Foundation, of course, but at the very least, you can get access to the United States State Department. Over and over, they keep making this point that Donald Trump is monetizing the presidency, completely giving a pass on Hillary Clinton for monetizing the State Department, which is literally what she was doing. The Clinton Foundation, it was difficult to show a distinction between where the Clinton Foundation started and where the State Department ended. Information that would come through one, money that would come through one, would get a visit or would get some kind of favor from the United States, from a State Department. I'm making this point, and something's happening in her private life, and there's some kind of passage, something is given from the State Department, whether it was weapons, whether it was some kind of supplies or something. I'm missing her point. She's trying to say that if that's the case, people looked at it and was horrified, and those people made a different choice. Those people essentially was like, oh man, I'm greatly uncomfortable with putting Hillary Clinton in that office under those situations or under those circumstances. If that's what really happened, if Rachel Maddow is right, then the validity of the release, the validity of the release themselves, the inculpatory evidence, the fact that it impeached her testimony in and of itself establishes the validity of it. The fact that people made a different choice when they were given the reality of the situation, establishes the validity of the information. It's not a situation where people looked at it and was like, oh, this is ridiculous. This is just trying to, you know, mess with someone. No. When you see something that says, even though Hillary Clinton is now saying she's against the TPP, but her position is that for the most part she wants open borders and that they are trying to go back to the TPP after the fact, that affects me. That affects everybody in this country. That evidence is pertinent to the people who are in the country who's making the decision on whether or not they want to put that woman in office. When she's talking about what she's planning on doing in Syria, she even made some reference to Palestine, talking about that if she was in that office, she would have made sure that the person she wanted to win would have won. Essentially, ironically, rigging an election. I mean, it's one thing after another. Those speeches where she's talking about Wall Street, she's just totally giving these guys all this credit after they crashed the economy. She's like, you guys should be in charge of this stuff. It's amazing. It impeaches her testimony. It impeaches the things that she said. Hell, it impeaches her character in general. And your argument is, well, it's unfair to dispel people's illusions about what Hillary Clinton was planning on doing in that office, or what Hillary Clinton was doing and functioning when she was in the Clinton Foundation and the State Department. Come on. That can't be your argument. That can't be your argument. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous to me. And on a second point, and probably even the most important point, it revealed that you guys were cheating Sanders. So over and over, progressives stood by and watched you guys, and we could see what was happening. 100,000 people off the roads in New York. Still in Nevada was some kind of procedural thing. Weird vote things where the elections themselves, the vote count, wouldn't match the exit ballots. Shutting down polling locations, some places up to like 60% of locations. We could see it. You and your party called us spoiled losers. You guys are spoiled losers. You're seeing what you guys want to see. That's all it is. And you need to fall in line and vote for Hillary Clinton. Otherwise, you're sexist. And if sexism doesn't get you, if slandering you is not enough, Donald Trump is going to eat your babies. And that's going to be your fault. Do you want your babies being eaten on your conscience? Then get behind and vote for Hillary Clinton. Then those leaks came out. And it was like, holy shit, what do you know? We weren't just selfish, or we weren't just seeing things that we wanted to see. What I'm looking at right now is that Brazil was passing information. With the other person, the head of the DNC herself, Deborah Wasserman-Schultz, was supposed to be fair and even. But she wasn't. She was actually putting stories to try to trash Sanders. There was a concerted effort over and over again to undercut Sanders, to undercut one person. There was even a particular one where somebody said, hey, make sure you go talk to the other campaigns. We don't want this to look unfair. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what the email said. They had chosen their candidate already. Sanders was a pain in the ass to them. From the head of that organization, they made a choice, a willful choice, whether that's setting the debate schedules a particular way so nobody can see Sanders, essentially trying to bury them. Whether even those, even the news media, like the stories that were being passed between these guys, I mean, you cheated. You cheated. And you need to understand the severity of this, because this is kind of a weird argument that they're making. Hey, it's unfair that Russia cheated in our election, and they had no right to expose that we cheated Bernie Sanders in the prior primary. Listen to the ridiculousness of this argument. Understand what they did also, because the gravity of it needs to be understood. Rachel Maddow is having these shows without ever honestly addressing the gravity of what took place in those primaries. They subverted this republic. Literally, that is not hyperbole. You had two candidates. The candidate that was going to win that primary probably had a decent chance of becoming president because Donald Trump was such a clown. Now, if it was Bernie Sanders, his chances were a hell of a lot better, and every poll has showed his chances were a hell of a lot better. In the situation they found themselves, Hillary Clinton was getting more money through state parties, meaning she was skirting election laws. In addition to all the hijinks that went on during that campaign, it wasn't a fair contest. Like, it wasn't a situation where Sanders voters went out and tried to put him in that office, and they made votes, and they worked for him, and they gave him millions and millions of dollars, and they put all this energy into his campaign. They invested their hopes, their dreams for the country, the things that they thought the country could be if they had somebody in that office who was actually going to represent them. The DNC conspired to undercut all of that, meaning that the money that the people donated, the energy that the people put into the campaign, they effectively were defrauded. They were cheated. It's not that they cheated Sanders. They cheated the millions of people who were supporting Sanders. They cheated all the people who are going to be hurt when Trump is in that office just because Hillary Clinton could not beat the reality show host. The DNC is responsible for that. And look, the DNC primary was as legitimate as a degree from Trump University. And if Trump can be sued for defrauding those people, they should be able to be sued too. How much money did I give to Sanders? That money was given predicated that the election that he was going to be in was going to be a fair and even contest. If the contest was not fair and even, then the DNC has, for the most part, undermined the money that I gave him and the millions of dollars that people gave him. People wasted their money, not because he lost, but because they cheated him, meaning he didn't get a chance to have a fair contest. The expression of that money, the expression of that will of getting him into that office was absolutely unfulfilled. And it was unfulfilled for the things that they did. The WikiLeaks revealed it. You cheated. And you're complaining about something else cheating you now. And you've landed on Russia. Even though, as I made the point before, you can't prove it. You can't prove it. The one piece of evidence that you have is based on NSA or CIA or something like that. And that evidence can be replicated. Meaning, some other state actor could have done what you're talking about. You're accusing another country, a nuclear-powered nation, at the top of your lungs about interfering with your election. And you can't prove that they did so. Rachel Maddow has literally become the Glen Beck of MSNBC.
Stealing it to use for themselves as the Russian government, they were redeploying it into the American bloodstream to have an effect on the way that we were dealing with each other as Americans.
Correct.
All right. You talked last night about how there was a big shift, an operational shift, essentially, that you saw between that Goose for the first leak and then the WikiLeaks one, that it was far more sophisticated in terms of how it could be weaponized, how it could be used here. I want to get into more detail with you on that in just a second. We're going to take a quick break.
I'm going to put the other one on the second video, but this is absolutely ridiculous, man. If you're being honest, and if you're engaging the information honestly, shouldn't you actually engage the information? Like, just saying, oh, they weaponized it. What does that mean, weaponize it? Oh, they revealed it to the public. Oh, wait, so them showing something honest to the public, when they actually showed who Hillary Clinton was, and those people went running away in abject terror, it's like they were being abducted by aliens. It was like that much fear. They're in their beds, frozen, and they're just losing their shit. That's the impression that she gives me of how people responded to the emails, based on her premise, based on her idea, her theory of the case. People saw that information, recoiled, and ran away. And she's saying, well, Russia attacked us by releasing that information. It scared people away from voting for Hillary Clinton. If it scared them away, unfortunately for you, that information is true, which means that they scared them away. It scared them because they saw the reality of the situation. You're just mad that they saw the reality of who your candidate was. Let's keep it real. Guys, if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and share. Thanks, guys. I am going to do the second one for this. It's probably going to be immediately after this video. This one just went a little long. Thanks, guys.